All right, folks, welcome to the show 4/3, April 3rd. Last hour of the day, live stream. Welcome from Patreon and YouTube. A reminder, if you're watching from Patreon right now, just please press on the link, press on the YouTube link. You'll be able to get here and chat with us. Anyhow, if you hear me good and you see the picture good, let's begin here. Thank you so much. And I like the music. Thoughts on Dix. We talked about this one here. If you have the puts on Dix, let's look at this one really quickly because it is working your way. Of course, if you're trading and buying puts, you want to aim for closing the gap. At the same time, you have support coming really soon. So it is up to you. Do you want to sell the next support? For example, I don't know what your strike is. Let's look at the strike here. You have... it says add the money, but you probably want to sell the gap right here, so that would be 190. You can sell that, or you can book your profits right away because you only have till 207.61 before you find support. You also want to look always on the hourly chart, specifically if you have expiration, let's say 2 weeks or less. And typically when we look at oversold hourly charts, you're at the risk of a rebound, so you might find some support here, and we see a rebound tomorrow. That's going to decay the value of your options. So given the shorter expiration date, I would actually book the profits on this trade if you got it. Let's talk about Hood, and I'm just going to take some questions here in the beginning, and then we'll do the market. Hood, look, it's above 1923. So can we do a trade on it right now? I'm not feeling it yet. And that hourly MACD is still positive. We need to see a rollover, loss of 1923 once again, and then we can talk about it. And of course, you got to look at Bitcoin here. I'm seeing some signs of weakness. You see the momentum in the hourly finished rebounding from the change in momentum here. Can we have the change in momentum here leading us down? That is the case, then of course Hood will go down, Coinbase, the rest of them. So it is promising, but let's wait for that confirmation. What are your medical results? I went to a neurologist today. Just they're gonna do more testing, and the doctors are more interested in talking about stocks than actually talking about the patient. But anyways. Craig, Math, I was surprised to see the IYR play closed. You think we're still going to keep this market action while without no connections? Okay, I get it. Look, the IYR, the reason it is a winner, I think we can go down more. You have the rejection here, 87.47. But again, two reasons why I decided to close. Hourly RSI, it's going to change to positive. I don't know if that's going to be via a move higher tomorrow, right? And we go to close the gap here. That's going to ruin the trade. So the trade will be gone. And then in the daily chart, today, if you plug in your Bollinger Bands, a little bit of a rebound here. But most importantly, today we've seen a pullback in yields. And it appears as a topping candle. Some folks call it an evening star or shooting star. It doesn't matter what the terminology is. If it is a topping candle and we go down a little more, because of the services PMI that we got today. So suppose we go down and then CPI comes out next week and we go higher. Between now and then, you'd face decay in the trade. So why not book the profits and then go back into it in that rebound as we head closer to the CPI? That's the idea behind it, really. Otherwise, I was aiming for the 200. I was going to hold it to the 200, but given the fact that we have 2 weeks now to the expiration, any rebound could really ruin the trade. So that's why I decided to book the profit. And since it is over 40% profit, you can't really play with it too much. Okay, INTC falling wedge in the 15 minutes, but feels like it's aiming for the 200 SMA on daily. Would love to hear your thoughts. Okay, this is a really good question. So we have Intel down about 7% today. On the daily, of course, aiming for the 200. I agree with you. That could be a destination where we find some support as we did here. It was a really good bottom for Intel. But now in the 15 minutes, let's see what the problem is. The problem is probably looking at a falling wedge pattern, such as you're looking at this. And then you have the hourly chart. Really, if you look at the hourly, forget about the 15. You want to do the hourly. The hourly is really oversold. So the idea is, can we have a rebound out of it? Fix this a little bit. And then head down and go to the 200 either way, which means as a trader right now, and you want to pick that trade all the way to the 200, do you go in right away or do you wait for that rebound? On the other hand, the stock might be too weak and it continues to go down. So in this case, either if you must enter, if you have FOMO, let's say, for the trade, you enter via an increment, and then you add to it if you have confirmation tomorrow. Otherwise, you get the rebound, look for a point of failure, then you add it back in here. For me, looking at the trade right now, I think I missed it, right? Because this is the juiciest trade right here. I'm not going to chase it. I would love to see a rebound, then a point of failure, and down we go. But I agree, the 200 is a good point for support. Glad I certified NVDA weekly calls with you. I got at the moment. You said it was intraday. I really need to study technical analysis, so not relying on you so much. It's not a good idea that I'm having you think for me. Yes, of course. You got to think on your own. Good to hear the opinion, but at the end of the day, you have to also think on your own a little more. So the idea today for NVIDIA was, if you see the confirmation, we're trading above, and you see the confirmation on the SPY or the Qs in that case, then you take a trade on it all the way. I don't think we had a really good opportunity, to be honest with you, because 3 minutes chart, we're already here. I mean, maybe you took a trade right here for the 900. Maybe you took it right here after a pullback, but honestly, it didn't give us really a solid entry point, because the pop happened right away when the services PMI came out. So it didn't give us a good point. The algos bought, the rest of us couldn't have the opportunity to buy. Now, the juiciest trade, as I said in yesterday's video, is to wait for the failure, right? So let it rebound, because the hourly charts are oversold. Let the market rebound, then we'll see a point of failure, and down we go. And that's a good segue to the SPY, right? So let's plug in our support levels. Look, we're getting a little bit of a flush here. Yep, a little bit of a flush at the end. We might have went negative, folks. Did we go negative? Oh boy, look at this. We're flat now. Okay, so we have the point of failure, as we said yesterday, and it's short of the gap. We didn't even close the gap. The other thing is, if you look at the SPX, this is why I'm saying a point of failure. This mouse is driving it crazy. I don't know what happened to it, but here it is. You got a trend line. Okay, this is from January. And we can even argue that it goes all the way back since the rebound in November. But let's take it from here. You see support on the trend line holding. Now we got to break out of that trend. We're retesting that as resistance, and that's typical of any chart. But if we get the failure, we begin to lose the range right here of the lows, then you got a confirmation. It's over. The trend is over. It's done. Okay? And your confirmation also, you always want to look at the weekly chart, and you're seeing that that's going to happen. That's inevitable, right? And we're getting closer. What have we been saying in this channel for a while? We've been saying the Qs is your leading indicator for the SPY. And the Qs is already giving the signal right here. Never mind the mess, but again, just so you can see it. But the signal is already in, right? So the SPY is really close of giving the signal too. The Qs is the leading indicator. So now we have the point of failure. Now you may enter some of these SPY and Qs puts. And we'll give you some ideas as we do this show right now. I do have the 510. I actually bought them right here when the pop happened. Bought some 510. Speculative. This is just, Robinhood account stuff. Not the serious trade that I want you to follow, but we target 2% pullback. So if we look at the hourly chart, And then we want to look for let's say, a 2% pullback from here, because that's reasonable till the monthly expiration. Even if we don't go all the way down to the 2% correction range, if we just go down to 511, that'll be good. So a few options that you got: 515, 510, 515, 505. You can go with the 510 naked. Let's just get the confirmation. I think we're going to get it by then today. The confirmation, of course, the one that I'm looking for today is losing 518.46. And I think we're going to get it because if you look at the hourly here, see, we fixed the oversold conditions, right? We fixed it on the hourly. Now we have the permission to go down. Of course, the ultimate confirmation that I would love to see is losing 516.54. But we might not get that today. But here, that's good enough for me. 518.46 I think is good enough. And then we're going to explore in option strat in a minute some options, okay, ironically. But anyways, the Qs. Same thing, 440.59. Would love to see an hourly close below this line. A little bit, no confirmation here, but you think it's going to happen. You see the curling around here, so it's probably going to happen by the end of the day. The IWM, I mean, again, you see the B leg that we talked about yesterday. Is it fading now, forming the C? We're waiting to see this confirmation of a failure here in the hourly. But it could be indeed the C leg to the downside, so why not? We'll keep an eye on it. But again, the IWM is a little stronger than the rest today. With that being said, again, you can argue that it is head and shoulder and down we go. So it doesn't matter. I think the indices go down together. And the reason is, look, the pop that we got today in the SPY and the Qs and all of that, it comes from the services PMI, right? That prices went down a little bit. But that's not new information to us. We've been saying icy in the hot. The services pulls back a little bit. Manufacturing comes back. The cumulative impact of all of this is sticky services inflation, and then come back with manufacturing inflation. You add them together, you have higher inflation, cumulative higher inflation than before. And that's going to be a problem. So the market right now, I think the algos, they just look at the data and they do their thing, and they pop the market higher. But then when you think about it, did it change anything today? I don't think so. So I think we should be going down. And the same with the dollar, by the way. I don't think the dollar should be going down. There's no reason for the dollar to go down like this. I think it's just the algorithms reading the data and following the algos verbatim without really thinking. So maybe now we're seeing the human being coming in and saying, no. Sure, I mean, services inflation going down, but add it all together, we have higher inflation. I think that's the problem that we're seeing right now. Let's do some of the important charts. The big guys, how about Apple losing 170? So, I mean, Apple always fails, right? So you had the hourly here showing a little bit of a bull flag, but now you close below 170. I mean, it's a failure, and we stick with the trade that we got, if not even double down, because that's a failure to launch. And usually, here's another failure to launch right here. Usually produces a series of more downside to come. So if this is a failure to launch, we want to double down because we'll have more downside to come. And probably you want to average down the trade, depending on how we close today. Tesla, wouldn't say it's a big guy, but for now, I don't see a trade in Tesla. Just let it simmer a little bit here, because Tesla it already oversold, and it is improving a little bit. It's already at the lower Bollinger Bands, so it's not the best chart for me to follow. So I'm just going to leave it alone for now. If we look at Microsoft, still the strongest name, not inciting here. I'm not seeing anything here, enticing, excuse me. I'm not seeing anything here that I would make me take a trade against Microsoft. If we lose 415.32, then I'll be interested. Let's look at Bitcoin really quickly here before we jump back to the questions. No weakness yet. We want to look at some of the indicators. So let's look at the dollar. Rebounding a bit in the hourly. So oversold coming out of the conditions here, the oversold conditions. I don't think that it should have been sold like this today. Then you have the VIX also, I think, oversold. It shouldn't really drop like this just because of the services PMI. I would say, if anything, it actually adds more to the evidence that we're going to have a problem with this rate cut outlook. So if we look at the 5 minutes on the VIX, If we close above 15, it's more of a confirmation that yes, it is the time to bet against the indices now, not just individual stocks. Let's go back to your question, see what you guys want to look at. We looked at NVIDIA, by the way. We looked at Tesla. We looked at Apple. What did I forget here? Forgetting about something. Today, futures, gold. Do you want to look at gold? I don't think that there's anything to look at here in gold. Meta. You got Meta, that's the exception. Google, Meta, just leave them alone for now. They break after earnings. And then you have some of the industrials moving here, but I'm not seeing anything else that I should be looking at. Maybe AVGO and AMD, those will be noteworthy here. AVGO, if we look at the daily chart, it is still at a lower high. So it loses the 20 again. You got to take a short on it. AMD recovering a little bit today, but it's not as strong as a recovery to eliminate the possibility of the expansion of the bearish momentum. So not a trade that I want to hop in the long side here. I think the market is jittery. I think the market is, if it loses the 20 today, I think that it'll be more of a confirmation that watch out, the weeklies are beginning to change and you want to be in the short side against the indices. So we'll keep it here. Let's do the 5 minutes since we have an hour left. And we don't need the Bollinger Bands. There we go. Okay, folks, let's do some questions here. Before we do it, let's look at some trades that we can do here for the SPY. And if we do puts, let's do SPY. See, the one that I got in the morning, and again, it wasn't really the best trade. So now it's making money, but it was a loser. The 510. I might actually close it right now. Give me a minute. Let me close it right now because I don't think that's the best trade. I'll close it right now, and then we'll brainstorm some better ideas. Those are actually what the hell did I buy? Here for the 19th, the 500. I think the one that I bought. Yep, that makes sense. I was like, wait a minute, am I rich now? No, it's the 500. So the 500, that's you gotta close that right now. It's a little too speculative. So we'll close those, and we'll concentrate on a better trade. And a better trade would be, if you look at the chart here, depending on the closing, we'd love to see a closing below 518.46 as confirmation, better yet 516.54. But one idea would be the 515, and then that's going to cost you about 350, so that's a little steep. We want to sell either the 510. I would love to have a bigger range than $5, so it's probably going to go to the 505. Capture about $140 here, and it cost me $200, and the possibility of profitability is about $700. So that's a really good risk versus reward. The other idea, if you don't mind paying a little more, is the 500. Your credit is going to be about $1. You spend $250 with the possibility of making $1,200. So I do like that structure. Now, if you want to go a little more speculative, you can go with the 510, and then you can sell the 500. Cost you about $130. You make about $850 if it plays out. So that's not a bad risk versus reward. As far as the Qs, I mean, the SPY will be good enough, but if you want to play the Qs, let's do the Qs here. I'm seeing a lot of 420. Maybe folks are just buying it for fun. 420 is a little too far for my taste. I would say that we'll find support here at around the 430. So 440, 430 would be the idea for me. 440, 430. You would see here that the profitability is almost the same. The pricing is almost the same. So whatever you like, really. The SPY is a touch cheaper. Here, if you go with the 435, then you sell the 425. That's also not a bad trade here. But I'm just going to go with the SPY because I think that I'm seeing enough weakness in other sectors too, like healthcare, like real estate, that makes this trade, if we take the 515, 500, I think that's a really good trade. 510, I might do that later though. So I might roll it down to the 510 later. But right now I'm going to go with the 515 and sell the 505. and that should be the trade. But again, I think it might be a little steep as a correction if it happens. So I want to sell the 500. So let's do that. And here's the SPY, but let's just see how the market is going to react in the next few minutes before we pull the trigger. But I think I'm really confident because we had this failure. So we might actually go to Discord and do a quick note here, so folks don't get mad at me. Let's do the, here it is. Just give me a minute here, folks. We'll take a screenshot of this guy because this is the trade that we want to do. Okay, and let's go to Discord. Give the guys and gals over there a heads up. Here it is. Option tracker. Well, let's do it on the Maverick only so everybody can get it. Everyone, heads up. SPY 515 500 put spread for April 19th expiration. I'll explain later. There we go. Okay, that's good enough. Back to the stream, folks. Okay, let's take some of your questions here, see what you got. We talked about, oh boy, we got a bit of questions here. Okay, I don't like the music. Okay, we talked about NVIDIA. Small family office says neuroscience is my profession. Wow. Welcome anytime. Latest studies on holistic diagnosis for free. Okay, that's good. Well, you know, the guy says it's probably not, he says it's probably a heart problem. It's not neurological. Because I did an MRI and he says it's okay, but there's another test where it measures the blood that goes from your neck to your head, MRA, right? MRA, something like that. So he wants to do that just in case. But that's good to know. Okay, SPYQ's testing lows of the day. Yep, yesterday you mentioned about 1 year bond yield in Argentina. What is it, ETF? I'm not sure if we have an ETF on it. I think that's just the folks who are trading bonds. The bond in Argentina is 40%, I think, at least according to Bloomberg. But I'm not sure how you buy it. I think you have to buy it via a broker. I don't think you can buy it on your own and look at the chart here. But maybe if we look at Argentina, 1 year bond doesn't show up. Doesn't show up here at least, but it might show up in other platforms. Okay. SLV going back to 30, but way out of the Bollinger Bands on the weekly. So if we look at the SLV, it is a hot trade. And again, there's a huge demand for gold and silver because a lot of folks are even calling me right now and say, hey, is it time to get into, like my brother, for example, I'm thinking about putting some money into the market. I'm like, now? You want to put money in the market now when it's about to turn around? No, just buy gold and silver right now. That's the safest bet since we have stagflation. Now, silver wants to test this high, which we talked about yesterday, which is 24.90. So I think once we get to 24.90, you'll find strong resistance and we come back. So yes, I think it's a little too hot. Now, if you want to take a put on it, maybe it's not the best case, right? Maybe you should pick on the SPY instead of the SLV because we have huge volume. I mean, this is massive, massive volume. It might continue tomorrow. It might just give you consolidation. So it might not be the best trade. I agree it might be a good lotto ticket, for example, if we go with the SLV. And we just pick the expiration date of not today, but let's do the end of the week. And we go with just really close to the money, 24.5. If we do that, cost you about $25 with commission. Yep. And maybe you'll take that shot. I mean, it's really cheap for the same price of the stock. So it's not really cheap, but it's cheap in a numerical value. So if that's what you want to do, go ahead. Let's keep it at the SPY here, folks, as we watch a really interesting close, to say the least. Okay, good morning, Matt from Sydney. Someday I'll be there. What are your thoughts on VIX and oil? So oil right now, if we look at crude oil, I I want to look at the futures. So if we look at the futures, this might be a little controversial since I've been touting oil for a while. But I think that we might be ready to turn around, at least for a pullback. I don't know why I'm feeling this. It's just a feeling for now. And this is a doji, meaning indecision. Could it be tomorrow that we get a pullback? That's my hunch. I think that crude may be a little too exhausted here in the short run. I think you might see some, if the SPY goes down, I think you might see asset managers de-risking and taking money even out of commodities a little bit. So you might see gold, silver, crude going down tomorrow if the index goes down. So that's my 2 cents. Now the VIX, it's probably the most important one to look at because it's going to lead us whether we see a pullback in these assets or not. If I look at the hourly chart here for the VIX, momentum is being lost, but again, bear in mind that we're kind of just doing this higher low pattern. And on the daily chart, if we look at that, we are still above the 20 days moving average. We're now below the 200, but the 200 is important. A lot of folks love to look at the 200. If we close above the 200, 1446 today, 64, excuse me, 1464 today, that could be significant. And bear in mind that the momentum is still bullish in the daily. So despite the pullbacks that you see in the hourly chart for the VIX, the daily remains pointing out for higher VIX to come. And if we look at the weekly chart, here it is. Weekly chart, we're still above the 20 weeks moving average. So again, I got to stick with volatility going higher. I think that the correction in the indices will happen. It's just a matter of when at this point. And today we see significant weakness. We see failure to launch. So there's something scaring the market here. It might be what triggers asset managers to sell. Okay, coin showing weakness, but Mr. holding above the 20 days. Yeah, I looked at this one. So MicroStrategy is, let's see if it's going to lose it though. I think it might be losing it right now, losing the 20. It's not a good looking candle here. We got one here, we went down, then we came back up because of Bitcoin going higher. But here, it might be a bad look for MicroStrategy because it might be doing this, right? The head and shoulder. Now, in Coinbase, it's the same thing. I want to see failure. Right now, we're closing below the 20. So it is normal. You get a gap down, you retest the 20, then you come back down again. It's sort of like an ABC pattern. So if we see that tomorrow, then we'll probably want to double down on the trade that we got because we need the average down at this point. Now, Bitcoin is the one you want to watch. And Bitcoin, I'd love to see a loss of 64,000, to be honest with you, because that's going to give me a confirmation that, yes, there's a lower low coming. It's going to be here at around the 58-ish. So once we lose 64, and that might happen overnight. So it's up to you if we average it down right now or just have the confirmation then average down. But if we go down here, I think that you'll see a steep correction in Coinbase and MicroStrategy. On the hourly chart, again, momentum will be lost. I mean, it's just a matter of time. So I think we're going to head there and retest it. Whether that happens overnight or tomorrow, I honestly don't know. We'll keep it at the SPY here. Hey, Mav, thoughts on Powell's speech today? I watched some of it. It's the same, the usual. I mean, we're not ready, but we're ready. We're going to do this and do that. So he's just keeping his options open. That's what he's doing. He's just hedging. But in reality, he doesn't want to show that he's concerned about the recent data, because if he does, it'd appear as he's flip-flopping. He sounded really confident in December and January. Now he's concerned. So people will say in the media even, oh, Powell maybe got it wrong again. So I think that's why he's being stubborn by not acknowledging that inflation is going higher again. Will it be a threshold, say CPI next week, when Jerome Powell finally says yes? It's going to happen, and maybe rate cuts not going to happen this year. I think that could be a turn point, and the market will read that before Powell's commentary. So if the CPI comes out hot next week, I think it could be the point where we see the market dropping down big in anticipation of Powell coming out later saying, folks, no rate cuts this year. Okay, Levi, let's do this one here. Thanks for the unusual trade 2 days ago for SMTC. You got the 32 long calls. You made 81% return. That's pretty good. Levi 18. So if we do the 18 puts on this guy, what is the theory here? Maybe it's losing a bit of momentum, right? Losing D20, and he retests the lower Bollinger Bands, but he got a catalyst here. And we cannot really speculate in the catalyst. Do we see jeans sales going higher? I mean, a lot of clothing companies are now just going higher as a meme stock. Just not a trade that I want to get into. Just leave it alone. I don't know how the report will look like. Thoughts on Ralph Lauren puts. I have the 160, 179 puts for 419, a loss at 37%. Should I hold or create a spread? So you have the 160 and 179 puts, two different strikes for 419. So the question now becomes, why two different strikes? I mean, the trade is kind of working your way, right? It is expanding the Bollinger Bands to the downside, but maybe it went way too far. Added the money with the 160. And the 160 for 19th is a little of a far shot. The 179, I think you're in profits, should be in profits right now. So maybe you want to book that one and go with the 170, 160 instead. So sell the 160 that you got, buy the 170, and I guess you have to sell it back, the 160, and have the 170, 160 spread. Because if you look at the weekly chart for Ralph, I mean, it's going to lose momentum. It's in the process of losing that momentum. Double top, sure, right? Losing momentum, sure. Lost support here at the neckline, sure. Next stop, probably the weekly average at around 160-ish. So maybe you're onto something with the 160. But time-wise, it's a little of a long shot. So I'd rather you sell that support and you buy the 170 instead. Okay, that's Ralph Lauren for you. Let's do Mav, any thoughts on Q1 earnings coming up? Or you think they will really get the bad news in the summer? Look, re-earnings, I think a lot of companies are bringing back the pricing power. So I think that a lot of earnings will actually be pretty good. Not maybe in the technology sector, Meta, Google, I'm worried about those. But in the industrial sector and healthcare, I think you see some of these earnings actually looking pretty good. The most immediate concern for the market right now is CPI. Because if CPI comes out hot, it really doesn't matter what we look at in the rear view mirror. It could be good, but it might not really cover for what's going to come later. Okay. Mav, any thoughts on Q1 earnings? We talked about this. Mav, good question. Good afternoon. What do you think of CPER versus COPX and AA? AA, Alcoa, we do like that. So Alcoa probably going to benefit from the revival of inflation. It's been acting pretty good as of late. It's breaking out. So do you chase it right now? I think you buy a little bit and then you buy more if it dips after earnings. So with the weekly chart, it appears that it's getting out of that consolidation and the energy is being released. Now, if we look at CPER, COPX, CPER, the copper fund, do you want to go with this one or do you want to go with the COPX? COPX, I mean, a little outperforming here, depending on what miners they got. This is 2%. Now, if you look at PR, the dividend here is, I don't think we have a dividend, right? So if that's important to you, you're probably going to go with the copper fund. For me, to be honest with you, Freeport is the most important name in all of them, and it also pays a good dividend, 1.25%. And I think you want to retest the high here. But again, if you don't want to stick with one name, you want to have diversification, I would go with not CPAR, but go with CPOX, because that's going to pay you dividend. And I think that's, I mean, it matters. COPX, the copper miners. And now we got China reopening 2%. I'd go with that one. And I think, again, it's Freeport is the heaviest weighting, so you just retest the high of Freeport. But here it gives you more dividend. That's the only difference here. Okay. What's going on, Mav? Are we still waiting for the 1880 confirmation on the 1 hour chart for Robinhood? Yes. So here's Hood. We're actually waiting for the loss of the line that we talked about yesterday. So we need to clean up the chart a little bit. We need to lose 1923, excuse me. If we lose that, and you get a confirmation by this look in the MACD, it'll go red, expanding the bearish momentum. If we have that look, that'll be confirmation number 1. Confirmation number 2, losing 1840. And then we can take it all the way down to 17, 16 and a half. There's a trade here, of course, if you want to take it. So it depends on what you really like to see as a confirmation. For me, if we lose 1923, we close below that today, it'll be good enough for me to take the shot. At least one increment, then add to it after this confirmation number 2 comes in. So Mav, the SPY 515, yeah, let's go with the 515 because that's as reasonable as we can at this point. If we do the 515, we're not going too crazy out of the money, which the 500 or the 510 is a little too far. What we want to see is just a retest here of this lower support. So maybe what the chart is doing right now is going down, rebounding, and then it comes back down again and retest that line. That'll be confirmation. So 515 right now is the safest. But of course, we'd love to see a closing below this line as a confirmation. So I would not go below 515. Let's just put it that way. Do you ever trade SPLG? Cheap man's SPY. SPLG, yes, I've traded it before. But the problem with this guy, it's going to track the SPY. Problem is, I don't think we have a lot of liquidity, a lot of volume on it. So it's 8 million in volume. Let's see what the options look like on this guy. So you only have the monthly on them. And if you take these 60 puts, for example, you see that the spread is pretty much a little too wide. So that's the only problem. But it is cheap man's S&P. It's just tracking the S&P verbatim. So you're right. So early this year, Meta shot up because of Chinese companies spending on ads. Is it possible that Meta next earnings will be a beat because of DraftKings, similar companies dumping money into marketing? DraftKings is way too small versus Pinduoduo. Okay, way too small. Pinduoduo was spending an insane amount of money in marketing. They were spending, you saw what they did in the Super Bowl. So I don't think you can really compensate for the loss of Pinduoduo as an advertiser. And now it comes down to, can they keep cutting costs? Can they do something to maintain those margins? We have to see that report. I don't think it's going to be a good report. Thoughts on Valley. Why is it lagging the materials? The problem with Valley, it's sort of an exploration company. So they don't have a lot of metals on hand. They're not really a seller of metals in a direct way. They're more into the mining and exploration, producing the metals. And right now, the trade in metals, it's not about, there is huge demand, we need to mine for metals and bring them out and increase supply. It is who has the metals in supply already, because the value of that supply increased all of a sudden because of the spot price going higher. And this is why a miner like Valley is lagging for now. Even ALB is lagging for considerably. But if you look at the spot price of any of these metals, you see them going higher. So you want to be close, as close as you can to the spot price, not to the miners. Okay. Hey, Mav, have you ever used the VIX or VVIX? No. So you're looking at this, right? You're looking at VVIX versus the VIX. Does that mean anything? It doesn't mean anything to me, right? Even if we plug in the SPX and see if it actually means anything or not. It's just not telling me anything. See, that goes down, market goes down. Goes down, market goes up. So there's nothing valuable in this correlation. Now, here's another question. Any good trades set up for next week's hot CPI? Yes. We'll have a lot of trades for the hot CPI, but let's do those on Friday. Right now, one step at a time. All we're looking at is, will the SPY really fail, or will it make a recovery by the end of the day? If it fails, so here's got to rebound at the end of the day. If it comes back down again, and we close below one of our confirmation lines, then at least we have a sign that the SPY is losing momentum, and then we can build on that for the CPI next week. But right now, we got about 10 minutes till the close. Got a little oversold here in the 3 minutes, and now we're getting a rebound, but we'd love to see that close below the line to have a confirmation. Let's look at the hourly, see if we have damage. See, this is really important to watch. We'd love to have confirmation before the end of the day and not leave it open as they're trying to do right now. They're trying to leave it open, keep it for speculation for tomorrow. I'd love to see it going down, and I think we have 10 minutes here. If it goes down, then we have a confirmation in the hourly at least. Gold, silver, copper, uranium all catching a bid, catch-up trades, safety trades, protection trades, and going moon over months over time through next year. Yes, I mean, all of them right now, because you have a lot of catalysts. You have buying by central banks of the metals. You have China comeback. You have stagflation. You have really lack of faith in the currencies. Who wants to buy the Japanese yen when it's being devalued? Who wants to buy the dollar when it's being shadow devalued? You're not seeing it in the Dixie's chart, but it is being devalued by the Fed, loosening financial conditions. I think this is why a lot of folks are seeing metals as the attractive alternative for now. Okay, so it's worthwhile to enter heavy industrials like Deere and Caterpillar. No. Lest someone said WHR, GE, where you want to go long. GE, I mean, yesterday we got factory orders, and you have auto parts and you have airplane parts. We're seeing demand for those. So you can have GE having a good catalyst from that. Whirlpool, we talked about durable goods. It's not because we're seeing high factory orders. Actually, factory orders for appliances are down in the month of February. But the reason we're seeing Whirlpool and durable goods going higher is the consumer is now spending using credit cards. And these companies are charging more. That's the difference. So in the case of Whirlpool, they're charging more. And that's what's making up for the stock and going higher. Now, if you look at Deere and Caterpillar, Deere depends on the comeback of China. So right now, that's a tailwind. The headwind, though, is what's going on with grains prices. Those are not moving. So that's the problem with Deere. Caterpillar, construction spending down. And again, I think that you might see a revival in China, but it might not be strong enough to revive construction or real estate just yet. So it might not be good for Caterpillar yet. Domestically, we're seeing a slowdown in construction. So again, Caterpillar, Deere, I'm not sure. I mean, Caterpillar, you look at that chart, I'm not sure that this is a chart that I want to go long here. It's actually a chart that I want to find a short entry in because it's been going impulsively, and I understand why people are speculating, but I think you have a report coming here, and if the company doesn't deliver on whatever is priced in here, it's going to be a problem. So Caterpillar, I'm not going to chase it here. Same with Deere. I think that Deere is a little weaker, and it might turn around before Caterpillar. But you have to watch, of course, right here. Grains are up today, and when grains go up, it kind of excite the demand for Deere stock, not for the equipment. And of course, you begin to see some of the agricultural plays. Yesterday we talked about Nutrien. So you see Nutrien up today, you see ISL up today, not ISL, but SMG up today. You see, where's Corteva? Because FMC is down, but Corteva's flattish. So maybe there's something brewing in the agriculturals, but we're not seeing the evidence yet. You look at the weekly chart for Deere. Again, it's sort of a lower high, but it didn't break support yet. So it's one of these charts, along with Caterpillar, but more Caterpillar would look for a short entry. Deere is sort of, okay, nice to look at, but I'm not sure what to do with it here. I'd like to see more guidance before I take a decision on Deere. Okay, let's go back to what we got here. We got about 7 minutes or so. Let's go with the SPY, see what's happening. A little bit of stalling. Let's plug in our indicators. Let's see if the VIX is beginning to move higher again. A little bit, just a little bit. We need it to go a little more to give us that confirmation. We'd love to have confirmation before the day closes. This is the confirmation I'm looking for. So here's the 1 minute. And we'll watch. Let's see what happens. It's amazing, though, that the ad goes by every dip, right? Here, they bought it right away. Here, now they're trying to buy it. Here, they're trying to buy it. Every sell via the algos is corrected right away. So if this one fails, I think that would be significant. If this one fails right here, because that'd be, if you look at the 5 minutes, that'll be probably the top of the breakdown candle. So we'd love to see a failure here. If we close above, I'll have doubts. What does it mean to be under the 20 moving average for NVIDIA? I mean, it is a negative sign. On the other hand, the Bollinger Bands have tightened too much to the point where the significance of the 20 is diminished. It is significant in the fact that we haven't seen a crossing below the 20 since this rally began. There was one here, corrected right away via earnings. So the fact that it did retest it, you see the behavior? It did retest the 20. It appears to be a failure. I think that's significant. But then we need something strong as a sell-off catalyst because that lower Bollinger Bands will hold the support. So we need something strong to begin to flush this chart down and lead it to close the gap. For now, all what I see from the 20 moving averages, okay, maybe NVIDIA already marked the top right here, at least for now. And the evidence is the 20 is a no-go. So maybe that's a confirmation for loss and change in momentum, because you already got your confirmation in the MACD. You got your confirmation in the Vortex a little bit. Let's expand that, see if we have it or not. Yeah, it's still a battlefield. No confirmation. You got a confirmation in the RSI via the negative divergence. And now you finally got it via the loss of the 20. That's how I look at it. But it just doesn't say that we're going in a certain destination or not. It just says that we're losing momentum. We lost the bullish momentum. Now we're about to change to bearish momentum. But this is going to be support. So 856 will be support. If we begin to have a catalyst, we expand the Bollinger Bands, then we can talk about it. On the weekly, any significance of the loss of the 20? Not really. We haven't even closed the week yet. If we close below the low of this candle, the 850.10, it means that we lost the 20 days moving average and we lost the lower Bollinger Bands. And in that case, closing below the low of this candle will give me strong confirmation that NVIDIA is indeed turning the corner here. It might head down to retest the 730 range, which will be in or around the 20 weeks moving average at that time. Let's do this guy again, see if we have anything going on. A little bit of weakness showing up now. Let's see if we got a confirmation or not. Ooh, so close. So close, folks. A little more. Just give us a little more in the closing minutes here. Apple is the weaker link, rejection from the 170, so that's good. And then you have NVIDIA. I think it also needs to lose that line. Come on, NVIDIA. Just lose that line already. The rest we're not really paying attention to right now. They can do whatever they want. But it's really Apple and NVIDIA. Apple, weaker. NVDA, come on, lose it. Lose it. Lose it already. And then you got Microsoft. That one's also weakening at the end of the year. So when you see that kind of stuff, somebody's selling, right? Somebody's fading the so-called good news that we got today. And that is significant. The Qs, same look. IWM, any weakness? Not really. A little stronger than the other indices. We'll keep it in NVIDIA because I think that's the most important. Let's see if we have a closing here below the 889.11. You see how important this level is. It keeps being retested over and over and over again. And then Apple, of course, the 170. But that's already been lost, so it comes down to NVIDIA. NVIDIA trying to hold, yes. Nat Gas still bullish. Still patience for now. Nat Gas. Today it looked pretty good in the morning and then kind of gave it up at the end of the day. But let's see here. We're still bullish. I mean, we're still in a breakout. So give it a little time. Give it the benefit of the doubt. Now, Spotify, I see another question here for Spotify. Do you do anything with Spotify? Can it continue to go higher with the announced price hike? Yes, it can. I mean, this is a huge catalyst. Price hikes, people will pay for it. It expands the margins of the company. You don't want to short this stock. I think if anything, it goes higher because of the price hikes. I'm not sure if the SPY goes down, if it's going to hold or not. But if it pulls back, just keep it in your list, because when companies raise their pricing in this environment, it's actually a good thing. We talked about NVIDIA. Let's keep it at NVIDIA here. And then we'll talk about Micron. Here's NVIDIA. Oh, it closed above. Couldn't close below. It's okay. It's not the end of the world, but we would have loved to see the confirmation coming out today. Here's the hourly, no confirmation. So they're gonna keep us guessing for tonight. But again, it is notable that the SPY, it was supposed to go higher and then it closed flattish. So there's something important in that message. And then the VIX, last look, this is really important. Not giving us here, but we need to see it. If tomorrow it begins to move higher, above 15 again, then we're done. We got the deal. Okay, Micron is the new momentum stock. Micron, yes, because Micron is a cheaper stock valuation-wise. So it was about $100 billion. Now it added $40 billion to the valuation. It can go to 200 in valuation. If the net income increases from 700 billion this quarter to, let's say, over 1 billion, I'm talking about 1.2 billion in that territory. If that is the case, we go to 200 billion. So Micron is a benefactor, and the reason is, and by the way, in my video that was supposed to get out and never really finished, that's a shame though, because we talked about NVIDIA versus Micron, and I said that Micron beats NVIDIA because NVIDIA, the problem with NVIDIA is now they're spending more, and they're going to sell the Blackwell chip for cheaper than the H100. That's not a good catalyst for them. Micron, on the other hand, they will charge NVIDIA for the chips for the Blackwell chip, and they'll buy more. The assumption is the volume will be higher. So Micron has a better tailwind than NVIDIA. Now, do you chase it here? I'm not sure about that, but you can play the call options at least, if that's something you're interested in. All right, folks. So this is the closing that we got. They're going to keep us guessing. I don't think we lost the 20 either. See, they kept us guessing here. We defended the 20, and then you look at the hourly chart. Never got the confirmation in the MACD, but boy, the action was really interesting. As far as you get the catalyst from the Surface PMI, and then you come, and even Powell coming out dovish, and you fail to close the gap, and you come back in, but no confirmation yet. That's a bummer. It is a bummer because NVIDIA did not really lose that line, but Apple did. So we have good signs that indeed maybe the market is reversing. We'll take a look at it again in the charts analysis tonight for the video. I'll begin working on that in about an hour or so. But thank you for being here for the stream. And by the way, we'll show you how you can watch the streams later on, because a lot of folks are confused about that, but I'll show you how we can do it. But for now, this is the stream that we got. Thank you for joining us in the last hour. We'll be back again tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day.